Greetings dear viewers and welcome back to the review program. In this episode we will discuss the evolution of construction sector in Uzbekistan and its future. During Soviet period, Uzbekistan underwent rapid industrialization, leading to significant urbanization. Key infrastructure projects included the construction of factories, residential buildings and public infrastructure, like roads and schools. Tashkent city was particularly developed as a major urban center. However, the turning point in Uzbekistan's construction industry came the morning of 26 April 1966 at 5:23 a.m. when the Tashkent city was awakened by a devastating earthquake. Measuring 5.1 on the Richter scale, this earthquake might not have been among the most powerful in history, but its impact on the city and the people of Tashkent was profound and far-reaching. The event marked a significant chapter in the history of Uzbekistan, transforming its construction sector and urban landscape. The earthquake's epicenter was located directly beneath Tashkent, which intensified the damage to the city's infrastructure. Buildings crumbled, streets cracked open, and many of the city's oldest structures, particularly those made of brick, collapsed entirely. In just a few moments, Tashkent, a city that had been an important cultural and economic hub in Central Asia, was reduced to rubble. Over 300,000 people were left homeless as their homes were destroyed or deemed unsafe. Also, the official death toll was relatively low due to the timing of the quake. The psychological impact on the survivors was immense. The sense of security that once existed in Tashkent was shattered, and the city was faced with monumental task of rebuilding not just its infrastructure, but its community spirit as well. The response was swift and massive. Architects, engineers and construction workers from across the region arrived in Tashkent to help rebuild the city. Temporary housing was rapidly constructed to shelter those who had lost their homes, and the city's essential services were restored as quickly as possible. The reconstruction of Tashkent began almost immediately after the dust settled. Modern ones replaced the old, traditional Uzbek buildings, many of which have survived for centuries. One of the significant changes was the introduction of earthquake-resistant construction techniques. The new buildings were designed to withstand future seismic activity, with reinforced concrete structures and other innovations that were intended to prevent a repeat of the devastation seen in 1966. Public buildings, including schools, hospitals, and government offices, were rebuilt with these new standards. The iconic Hotel Uzbekistan, which still stands today, was one of the many structures built during this period, symbolizing the city's rebirth. So what is next? Following independence in 1991, the construction sector in Uzbekistan slowed down due to the economic challenges and a transition from a planetary market economy. However, by the late 1980s and early 2000s, the construction sector began to recover as the government introduced reforms to attract foreign investment and modernize the economy. This period saw the increased construction of residential complexes, commercial buildings, and infrastructure projects. Let's discuss some of the significant buildings of the capital in detail. Independence Square, also known as Mustaqillik Maydani, is a central landmark in Tashkent that was inaugurated to celebrate Uzbekistan's independence in 1991. The square is surrounded by prominent government buildings and features the Independence Monument, which symbolizes the country's freedom. It serves as a site for major national celebrations and public gatherings. The area is known for its grand architecture, spacious layout, and symbolic significance in Uzbekistan's modern history. Terminal 2 of the Islam Karimov Tashkent International Airport, built in 2001, is a modern facility reflecting Uzbekistan's growth as a significant travel and trade hub. The terminal is equipped with state-of-the-art amenities and infrastructure to handle increasing passenger traffic. Its construction represents the country's dedication to improving international connectivity and enhancing the travel experience. The terminal serves as a gateway for visitors and symbol of Uzbekistan's modernization. Alisher Navoiy National Park in Tashkent, opened in 2001, is a major urban park designed for public enjoyment and relaxation. The park includes landscape gardens, walking paths and recreational areas, serving as a green oasis in the city. Named after the famous Uzbek poet Alisher Navoiy, the park is a center for community activities and cultural events. Its development highlights Uzbekistan's commitment to enhancing urban green spaces and improving quality of life. The Hazrat Imam complex, located in Tashkent, is an important religious and cultural site dedicated to Islamic scholarship and heritage. Completed in 2007, the complex includes the Barakhan Madrasa, the Tilla Sheikh Mosque, and the Imam al-Bukhari Memorial Complex. It houses significant Islamic manuscripts and is a center for religious education and cultural events. The complex is a symbol of Uzbekistan's deep Islamic roots and its commitment to preserving Islamic heritage. The Palace of International Forums Uzbekistan, established in 2009, is a landmark in Tashkent, serving as a venue for major state events and international conferences. Its modern architecture reflects Uzbekistan's commitment to global diplomacy and cultural exchange. The building is designed to accommodate large gatherings and symbolize the country's openness to the world. The space is frequently used for parliamentary sessions and international forums, making it a crucial part of Uzbekistan's political landscape. The Tashkent City project, launched in 2018, is one of Uzbekistan's most recent and ambitious urban development initiatives, aimed at transforming Tashkent into a modern, business-friendly metropolis. This extensive project is part of Uzbekistan's broader strategy to enhance urban infrastructure and attract international investment. Key components of the development include the business and financial district, which is designed to establish a central business hub with modern skyscrapers, state-of-the-art office spaces, and conference centers to support business activities and financial operations. The residential areas are intended to provide high-quality housing options with luxury apartments and modern residential complexes, integrated with green spaces to improve urban living standards. The evolution of the construction sector has not always been positive. For example, as of the statistics, currently Uzbekistan has about 42,000 multi-apartment buildings. Of these, 73% were built before 1991. Out of these older buildings, about 100 need technical inspection, and 200 are considered seismically weak. Following images from the official news websites can show it all. To deal with this issue, the government has introduced new law to increase the earthquake resistance of building and improve the seismic risk monitoring activities. Despite all the challenges, the industry is going to develop. Recently, a project New Tashkent has been proposed that will accommodate 500,000 residents in the first phase, with the city's population planned to rise by 2.5 million. And this new city will house administrative buildings, universities, and cultural facilities. The construction of New Tashkent will use almost 20,000 hectares of land. This land is located in Yukarı-Chirchik and Urta-Chirchik districts of the Tashkent region. The new 13th district will include 33 mahallas from Yukarı-Chirchik and 7 mahallas from Urta-Chirchik. 6,000 hectares are planned for the development by 2045, with preliminary plans for roads connecting to the capital. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev started the New Tashkent project in March 2023. Last September, the integrated design by the British company Crossworks was approved. The master plan presented by the Crossworks also provides for the construction of a complex of twin towers with a height of 575 meters, which will occupy the 5th place in the world. Davronjon Adilov, head of construction directorate, emphasized that New Tashkent should integrate seamlessly with Old Tashkent. The president stressed that without this project, living in the capital city will become increasingly difficult within 5 years. To further discuss this field, we had a chance to meet with UN Special Rapporteur on the right to housing, with Mr. Balakrishnan Rajagopal. At the press briefing, we asked some questions in this topic. During the press briefing, Mr. Rajagopal noted that due to lack of awareness, enforcement failures and ineffective measures against non-compliance, new laws are often ignored in daily practice, particularly in the construction sector. Uzbekistan is experiencing large-scale urban renewal projects, sometimes involving the demolition of entire neighborhoods to make way for new developments. Much of this is occurring without a solid legal and planning foundation, and public participation, including that of those directly affected, is often lacking.
Overall, there is a problem of lack of remedies when it comes to particularly construction companies, and this must be addressed. As I mentioned already, meaningful participation is important. Participation in urban planning cannot be achieved simply by digitizing plans and putting them on the web. That is not participation. That is simply one-dimensional sharing of information. That is different from participation. I've encouraged more constructive ways to truly allow the people of this country to participate. There is also the emerging financialization of housing with the emergence of a soft loan mortgage market increasingly becoming more prominent, with worryingly for me, varying interest rates that need to be better regulated. Financialization of housing has devastated housing situation in too many countries around the world, including pretty much the whole of Western Europe. Uzbek government to act now before it is too late. Overall, I would encourage that the government pay more attention to enforcing the laws, to strengthening remedies, to securing independence of the judiciary, so the courts actually are more available for exercise of remedies by people of this country. There is also finally the situation concerning cultural heritage in especially cities like Samarkand and Bukhara. And very worryingly, I've seen even within the core protected zones, not the buffer zones, but the core protected zones of these cities, which are under UNESCO protection, too many houses are being destroyed in an arbitrary manner, purely with the aim of commercial development. And that is not a legitimate reason for destruction of housing or any other building for that matter in those spaces. Both UNESCO and the local government should exercise more due diligence and be more prudent in ensuring that these kinds of demolitions don't happen, particularly because UNESCO is heading towards its plan to host an annual their general meeting in Samarkand in 2025.
In addition, the issue of judicial independence remains a problem, he stated. According to him, many court cases between construction companies and citizens seem to favor the companies.
The main issue when it comes to defense of rights, what happens when people's rights are violated, particularly right to adequate housing, is that I sense a sense of fear and a sense of helplessness about where they can go and complain. They do complain very often to multiple authorities often, including the many non-judicial mechanisms that we have, including the President's Complaints Office, the ombudspersons and other authorities. It could be the local mahalas or hokims and so on, but they receive acknowledgements from them, often in writing, but no real remedies. There is no real follow-up, and often they remain for a long time without seeing any of their issues resolved. So when these people or other people who try to defend their rights seek to speak up or write about it, I see fear, I see actual retaliation, I see crackdowns. Civic space is restricted. It is going through a difficult period still. And while the spirit of openness has prevailed in the country more broadly in the last few years, I have urged the government to ensure that this open free space is actually extended fully to civic space in the coming months and years. I hope to remain engaged with the government and the people of Uzbekistan in the coming months and during my term as a special rapporteur. And I'm open and willing to engage any institution or people to offer my full assistance to fully realize the right to adequate housing.
He also conveyed a special message to the participants of a meeting.
As you know very well, conflict, unfortunately, can be seen in multiple parts of the world. and people are losing their lives, they are losing their kids, they are losing their homes, and far too many homes are destroyed and reduced to rubble because of bombing in too many parts of the world. The importance of peace and accountability for mass crimes, including mass destruction of houses, which I have in my UN reports called domicide. The importance of peace and accountability for these crimes cannot be emphasized more. In the case of Uzbekistan and Central Asia, I'm particularly pleased to see regional peace and stability. There is no armed conflict in a massive way, and there is no mass destruction of housing. It truly warms my heart to see this peace prevail, because peace is the most important human right of all. If you don't have peace, every other right gets destroyed. And I would say that if there is a message to the rest of the world from this country, I would say, if I can borrow from the message from this country, is this: make plow, not war.
After the press briefing, we gained an opportunity to ask Mr. Rajagopal questions on the way of promoting sustainable construction in the process of building new Tashkent.
I was shown plans for the new Tashkent city and all the steps that they've taken to ensure a variety of new best practices, including in the area of sustainability and also adopting plans that pay sufficient attention to new forms of living, urban living, walkability and bike use, access to public transportation. They were all mentioned as part of an integrated approach to Tashkent city. And I hope that these are carried out with full attention also to the use of sustainable materials in the use of housing and building, and also the avoidance of what is often called the heat island effect, the excessive use of built surfaces, and sufficient greenery in the area in order to ensure that during the hottest months the area doesn't become too hot as well. I'm quite pleased to see the plans on paper, but at this stage, as I toured the area, I could see that it's at a very preliminary stage, and that I was able to see, for example, a library coming up. But beyond that, we need to see how it is actually implemented. And I hope it's implemented in a way that fully meets the criterion of sustainability, which is an important part of what adequate housing means. It needs to be sustainable.
Might the use of sustainable materials in constructing buildings in New Tashkent make housing prices higher? He shared his opinion on this.
It may, but it may not. Pricing is a factor that depends primarily on land. Land price contributes very often between 40 to 70% of a house's cost. And if the land prices are sufficiently, shall we say, controlled, or they are supported by other sources of funds, including control of land price by the government, then it's possible that the use of sustainable materials alone will not increase the cost of housing beyond the reach of individuals. Then there is also the question of providing subsidies and supports, particularly for socially vulnerable groups, including single families, single mothers with children, older persons, persons with disabilities. Some of these programs already exist, but I think that specifically prioritizing them would be another way to ensure that, especially with greater increase of funding for those vulnerable groups, one could make sufficient number of houses affordable for those communities as well.
For reference, Mr. Rajagopal will present a detailed report on his visit to the UN Human Rights Council in March 2025. These were the main highlights for this episode. Thank you for watching. Don't miss review program every Sunday on Uzreport TV.